Hello everyone, so this is going to be a break from my normal content, which is just trains and other random stuff my parents upload, and I'm also going to ask you to please pay attention to this video. So recently, I have learned that the US Air Force wants to divest all A-10s it has in fiscal year 2026. Now this may not seem like a big deal to some, but this is a massive deal to me, mainly because I want to be an A-10 pilot. But this video isn't supposed to be me whining and diming over the fact that I might not fly the thing that I really want to fly because it may get retired. No. The point of this video is to inform you on why A-10 divestment is not such a grand idea. And I also want to urge you to write to your senators and representatives, primarily the Armed Services Committees of both the House and the Senate, primarily the Tactical Air and Land Subcommittee for the House and the Air Land Subcommittee for the Senate, to retain the A-10 until an effective replacement is created. Personally, I think the A-10 should stay until at least 2040. So, right off the bat, the first thing I want to talk about is the March 2018, April 2019 A-10C versus F-35A fly-offs. If the U.S. Air Force has retired the A-10, then Congress should receive a fully unclassified report of the aforementioned fly-offs. This should be a critical stage before retiring any airframe with another one. Now, a version does exist available to the public, but it is a redacted one. And it only came out when a military watchdog group known as the Project on Government Oversight obtained it via a Freedom of Information Act request. Even their first request got unanswered, so I'm pretty sure the Air Force was pretty reluctant to hand this over. Or the request got tied up in Air Force bureaucracy, one or the other. Now let's think about this real quick. I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist by saying this, but I have a good feeling that if the F-35 came out on top, the Air Force would probably come out jumping and clapping and all excited and waving a report in front of Congress, and the A-10 fleet would be all divested by now. But in the real world, the Air Force's report is classified. So what does that tell you? I'm just going to take a wild guess and say the A-10 came out on top. This is just a theoretical, don't start throwing tomatoes at me yet. Anyways, this video isn't just going to be me harping over all that. Let's take a look at some more stuff. So yes, the A-10 is slow, which in turn makes it more vulnerable to air defense. But the A-10 makes up for this. The A-10 is highly survivable and can survive AP and HE rounds up to 23mm. Also, there have been several instances where the A-10 has taken SAM/Manpad hits and has been able to fly home. Now, a story you've probably heard before is that of, at the time, Captain Kim Casey Campbell, who survived extensive damage taken in her A-10 and was able to fly back to base. This is a testament to the A-10 survivability. Now, you might think, actually, the F-35 is stealth and it, as well as other multi-roles, can fly higher and attack with JDAMs and precision-guided munitions. Why would survivability matter? So, here's the issue. JDAMs on average have a blast radius of 150 to 350 meters depending on how big the JDAM is, meaning you really shouldn't drop them anywhere closer than 200 to 400 meters from friendly troops. That's 2 to 4 football fields, but many firefights happen inside 300 meters. In fact, a U.S. Army study found that about half of infantry engagements in Afghanistan had within that range, while the rest happened farther than 300 meters. That's still a good hunk of close-range engagements. So in those situations, where troops are in close combat, the enemy is moving closer, civilians may be nearby, a JDAM can be too risky, too slow because it takes time to leave the plane and hit the target, or just plain ineffective. That's where the A-10's gun comes in. The pilot can get eyes on target, talk directly with the JTAC, and hit within 20 meters of friendly forces if needed. That's close air support. That's why survivability matters, because the A-10 is the aircraft that can actually get close and stay in the fight, not just toss a bomb from HL's 20 and call it a day. The U.S. Air Force once tried replacing the A-10 with the TAC version of the F-16 called the A-16, later known as the F-A-16. However, it failed. The A-16/FA-16 failed to replace the A-10 because it lacked the survivability, loiter time, gun effectiveness, and slow-speed visual targeting ability that are essential for close air support. In short, the FA-16 was subject to close air support and turned out to be a load of hot garbage because it cannot handle low and slow. The A-10 was purpose-built for the mission, while the F-16 was a compromise that did not turn out as expected. Another story which I'd like to bring up, which kind of ties into what I've been saying, is when a flight of 2 A-10s were able to support a group of Marines in Afghanistan, when 2 formations of FA-18s, multi-roles mind you, were unable to. On October 28, 2008, 2 A-10 pilots, Captain Jeremiah Bull Parvin and First Lieutenant Aaron Cavazos, flew nearly 20 gun runs to save 6 Marines who were surrounded by insurgents in Afghanistan. 2 formations of FA-18 Hornets, which I mentioned before, were in the area but cannot help because of heavy cloud cover. Originally, what they wanted to do was they wanted to throw a JDAM in there, but they were unable to because of the clouds. The A-10s were able to fly low through the clouds, they got eyes on the enemy, and attacked very close to enemy forces, sometimes within 20 meters of their Galloway A Avengers. Their bravery and the A-10's unique capabilities saved the lives of those Marines. Both pilots received the Distinguished Flying Cross of Valor for their actions. Full article in the description, by the way. Anyways, so from an operational standpoint, here's going to be some facts to consider. This is going to go A-10C versus F-35A versus F-15EX, because I kind of win that the F-15EX might now be the new advertised replacement for the A-10. First off, guns. Like I said, guns still have a purpose in close air support. They can be used extremely close to friendly forces, something many PGMs can't do safely due to their blast radius. Guns also offer near instantaneous effects, and can be used with more advanced weapon systems that either take too long or be too overkill for the situation. So starting off is the A-10C with its iconic Galloway A 30mm autocannon with roughly 1,150 rounds of ammunition. It's accurate, devastating, and perfect for infantry / light to medium armor and danger close air support, and it's been combat proven. Next up is the F-35A with its Gal-22A 25mm autocannon. It has roughly 180 rounds of ammunition. It's lighter and has fewer rounds, and it's not really the best for sustained gun runs. And finally is the F-15EX with its M61 20mm Vulcan autocannon carrying 500 rounds of ammunition. The Vulcan is primarily for air-to-air and not really for air-to-ground. Next up is loadout flexibility. The A-10C can carry almost anything. It can carry AGM-65 Mavericks, APKWS rockets, normal rockets, laser-guided bombs, dumb bombs, small diameter bombs, and on top of that has its Galloway A cannon. It can use more worthy weapon systems for more worthy targets, e.g. gun/rockets for troops, and light to medium armored vehicles, PGMs for heavy armor, etc. The F-35A is mainly a PGM carrier. It carries JDAMs, laser-guided bombs, GBU-39 SBDs, joint standoff weapons, joint air-to-surface standoff missiles, and advanced anti-radiation guided missiles. And the F-15EX is also a heavy PGM carrier, and it carries mostly JDAMs, JASSMs, and small diameter bombs. Next is loiter time without tankers. The A-10C can last up to 90 minutes without tankers, the F-35A can last up to 30 to 45 minutes without tankers, and the F-15EX can last up to 60 to 75 minutes without tankers. Next up is takeoff, landing, and austere capability, and this is good so aircraft don't need to go all the way to a full-fledged airbase and in return can rearm faster. The A-10C can land at 2,000 feet and take off in 3,000 and can be used at forward operating bases, rough runways, highway roads, etc. The F-35A needs 4,000 to 6,000 feet to land and 8,000 feet to take off, and it requires full air bases. And the F-15EX is similar to the F-35. Next up is cost per flight hour. The A-10C runs around $2,000 to $23,000 per flight hour. The F-35A runs around $33,000 to $44,000 per flight hour, and the F-15EX runs around $29,000 per flight hour. Now that I've got all of that out of the way, let me talk about something called forced packaging. One of the biggest arguments for getting rid of the hog is that we get decimated in a near-peer fight with China or Russia. However, if we were to ever go to war with a near-peer, the US Air Force would do a thing called forced packaging. Now, what is forced packaging? Forced packaging is if, let's say, we're moving into contested airspace, having stuff on all levels. Up high, you got F-22s and other air superiority fighters. Then below that, you got multi-roles and SEAD aircraft. And below that, you got attack aircraft like the A-10. If we were to go to war with a near peer, and we're going into contested airspace, nothing is going to go in by itself. Even like, let's say, the F-15EX, it might be going in with SEAD aircraft or other air superiority fighters like the F-22. Or even the F-35, which might be going in with EA-18Gs if SEAD isn't the F-35's mission that sortie. So in turn, the A-10 would go in with other aircraft to provide air cover while the A-10 does its main mission, whether it be CAS, convoy interdiction, whatever. So the A-10 is moving in a forced package, which is going to be the norm, by the way, if we get into a near peer, can make it into contested airspace / near peer. So getting rid of the A-10 really just shoots ourselves in the foot because we're sacrificing our best ground attack / support aircraft we got, even though it can survive in contested airspace if moving in a forced package. If you send it out on its own into contested airspace, it is going to die. It is not making it out. Also, despite being a 50-plus-year-old aircraft, it is still very modern. mostly due to A-10C upgrades. For example, A-10C upgrade Suite 8 gave the A-10 IFF Mode 5 and Lightning and Sniper XR targeting pods. The A-10C can also carry AN/ALQ 131 or AN/ALQ 184 electronic countermeasure pods. The A-10 has also been upgraded to be compatible with the failed Scorpion helmet-mounted queuing system. Now before I wrap this up, I want to talk about one last thing, and that is friendly fire. Let's use some common sense. Where do you think friendly fire is more likely? In a clean, radar-guided air-to-air engagement, or in a chaotic close-air support scenario where friendlies and enemies can be just meters apart on the ground? On top of that, it's hard to identify who from who other than vehicles. The answer is obvious. Close air support is one of the most complex and dangerous types of air power missions, and that complexity increases the risk of fratricide. That said, the A-10C is not the same platform it was decades ago. It's been upgraded with modern targeting pods, helmet-mounted queuing systems, digital data links, and more, all of which greatly improve the accuracy and reduce the risk of striking friendlies compared to the old A-10A. Remember, A-10s don't just freelance targets. Most of the time, they're acting on information from ground controllers like JTAGs. If a strike hits the wrong target, it's often because the target info was flawed, not because the pilot or the aircraft made a mistake. So blaming the A-10 for friendly fire incidents without acknowledging the complexity of close air support or the upgrades it received is just misleading. So I urge you, seriously, please, write to your representatives and senators and ask them to block the retirement of the A-10 until a fully unclassified, unbiased report of the April 2018 and March 2019 fly-offs is presented to Congress for full review. Only after that review should any decisions be made about retiring the A-10. You're more than welcome to use any of the facts I've shared in this video. And don't fall into the someone else will write it trap. If everyone thinks that, nothing will get done. Congress may finalize A-10 retirement this July, so we need to act now. Anyways, thank you for watching this whole video. Once again, please write to your senators and representatives. See ya.